Kairos Outside is a ministry that supports women whose lives have been impacted through incarceration. The real meaning of Kairos Outside is found in the stories of the guests. This is what we want to share with a world that does not understand their challenges. These women tell it all.
My oldest son is incarcerated for 47 years. He's been in for 7.
My brother spent the last 20 years of his life on death row.
Actually, I thought things were really going pretty well in our marriage, and it was 3 months later and he was arrested.
My eldest son was in and out of prison in 3 states.
And that was when I shared with her something she had not known, because it's not like you go around telling people that my brother was indeed incarcerated.
I was working for 2 years as a chaplain in the prison system, so I was very familiar with everything on the inside, but on the outside it was really quite different.
My nephew asked me to come to Kairos Outside, and I told him I would. And I visualized myself, when I got to Kairos, I saw myself pulling this bag, coming through this door, going to encourage my nephew that it's going to be all right. And when I got in there and I found out that it was for me, I was like, I don't have time for this. I'm not going to stay. And all of a sudden, a lady come from out of nowhere, it looked like. And it was like God had sent an angel. And she said, Florence, she said, I've been waiting on you. And she wrapped her arm up in my arm, and she said, Florence, she said, I've been praying for you. And it was like God had just sent an angel just for me.
As the weekend approached and got closer, I got nervous. I had dropped out of church and hadn't been going to church, and I knew this was a church-related weekend. Didn't realize how powerful it was and how it was going to touch my life.
First of all, I would tell them how afraid I was of attending the weekend that I attended, and how if I had driven in my own car, I would probably have left.
But the moment I stepped out of the car, I saw women there who were dressed like me. They all had on the same name tags. If you forgot their name, you knew their name because it was in front of you. From the moment I stepped out and walked into the building, I felt wanted, appreciated, accepted.
I was called by all these ladies showing me all this love and telling me how excited they were that I was coming. And I'm thinking to myself, there has to be something wrong with this picture. They don't know that I'm black. They don't know that I'm larger than most women. So I had all these things in the back of my mind that it was not going to work. So when I got there, I kept waiting for something to happen. I kept waiting for somebody to slip up. They're going to decide to change their minds and send me back. And it just absolutely did not happen. Things just got better and better and better.
I had made up in my mind that I have nothing to say to these people, and I'm just going to listen to what they have to say, and I'm going to leave. I said, I don't know who these people are, but all of a sudden, I heard the Spirit tell me, I brought you here for you. You're doing so much, so I'm sitting you down here so that I can minister to you. And that's when I felt the love of Christ just overwhelm me, and I began to cry.
And we really didn't know what to expect, but as the weekend progressed, we were just filled with surprises and filled with the love of Christ, something that I had never experienced in my whole life, the way that it was displayed on that weekend.
At that time, my husband was incarcerated. I would visit him, and I would see women standing in line that would talk about their churches just rejected them. They no longer felt they could be comfortable. Their families had disowned them.
I didn't realize what was going on with the pain and the suffering that the women on the outside experienced. You just have no idea. You don't realize that they're doing time the same as the men inside, except they have the responsibilities that the men don't have.
A lot of the negative stigma that goes with having a husband in prison, I had been dealing with that. And so when I was invited to Kairos Outside weekend and told it was a ministry that supported women who had a loved one incarcerated, I was excited and anxious to attend the weekend.
Kairos is a welcome wagon. You are this basket of goodies that replenish often a barren life because of circumstances.
If I were ever asked to give a definition of the Kairos prison ministry, it would be this. It is a never-ending story of God's love.
That's right. That's right.
During the weekend, there were little surprises, which I don't know if people talk about or not, that were able to help the women, I think, to connect with some of their very comfortable experiences in their past.
On Sunday afternoon, they have a birthday party. And they say that it's for all the birthdays and holidays and special occasions that you've missed with your loved one. And that was an area in my life that had meant so much to me because my husband and I had missed all those special days together. And so for them to address that need was just really overwhelming to me, and it was just a blessing that I can't begin to tell you about.
It was the icing on the cake, I guess I could say, because each time you would think, okay, what can they do that would be better than the last thing they did?
And there seemed to be the hand of God very clearly in that moment in time. And people seemed to come out of that with some of their burdens really released. And so there was actual healing that you saw transforming in front of you, which is something that is always encouraging.
If I had to say what helped me the most, it would be the forgiveness service, because it helped me to let go of the anger, the resentment, and let me know that I was capable and worthy of God's love and forgiveness.
There's a piece of paper that you get and you write down everybody that you're angry with, everybody that you need to forgive, and everybody that you think needs to forgive you. On that little piece of paper that first weekend, I filled it up. The spiritual leader told me, you can fill it up again, you can write over those names. So I wrote over those names again 3 times. And at the forgiveness service, I put it in the water, and it dissolved away. And my forgiveness and my healing started.
Because when I heard about accepting God's forgiveness, that enabled me to be able to forgive others.
I don't think I realized I was so angry with my brother until I was told to hold on to this rock, and I was holding on to it till the imprint was in my hand, and that was really powerful for me to have the spiritual director say, this is what hate and unforgiveness will do to your heart, what this rock is doing to my hand. And I knew then somehow that I had to let it go.
It helped me to realize that I didn't have to feel guilt over what had happened in my family. And I could let go of that guilt. And it helped me to move on.
I experienced on that weekend love and support from many, many people that I had never felt before. I was loved very unconditionally, and the community support that I felt afterwards was one of the most, it was what supported me and took me through the time of my husband being incarcerated, and it became publicly known.
I came away with the knowledge that I am worthy and I am loved. But then I think of the next talk and the next one and how they all came together to free me from the constraints that I had allowed to be put on me by myself, really. And I had freedom. I was free. I was free.
Kairos Outside, I often tell to people, is like the yin and my yang. You know, my son going to prison was definitely, you know, why me? What did I do? What didn't I do? And Kairos Outside clarified all that, freed me, similar to the other ladies, that, and let me move beyond that.
At the Kairos weekend was the first time that I have ever seen God's love on display that way, and it was so genuine, and it was people who didn't know you personally, But through Christ's love, it was like they knew you all your life, and they just shared all of that love.
It wasn't just a weekend. It's a ministry. It continues. And you not only need that support at the weekend, you often may need it for the rest of your life, because it may end there, but the journey for people that have someone incarcerated does not end.
It's changed my life for the better, absolutely. And I don't see an end to it, because my son is a lifer, and I'm very much like Marilyn. I'm just starting where I can discuss that with people that aren't inside Kairos.
And when I go to church now, it has really made a difference, because I'm no longer just a bench warmer sitting there. I can fully appreciate the love of Christ, and it has made a huge difference in my life.
And when I tell you that I love this ministry, I say that from the bottom of my heart, because I honestly do.
I was able to breathe again. It gave me life. People that I could talk to and relate to and have a support group. And I came back a changed person.
And it's the first time in my life that I actually took something to the altar and left it there. It was the first time that I was really able to let go. And it was the love of all these women, and just this feeling like here I'm in a really safe place. That was the best part. I felt safe, and things just kept getting better and better.
There was a spring in my step. Anger, bitterness, and resentment was gone from me. And I thanked him for giving me the greatest gift that he ever gave me, because he gave me back my life and my faith through that Kairos Outside weekend.
It's just given us a bigger family, more support for each other, as well as our loved ones that are incarcerated, and just a continued relationship, meaningful relationship.
For my son who was incarcerated, it was proof to him that I really did love him, even though he had made mistakes. And it opened up for us a spiritual dialogue of sharing the faith with one another.
It gave my husband and I a better relationship. I had a daughter who never adapted or never adjusted to her brother being incarcerated at the time. So it opened the lines of communication for me and my husband at the time. And it also allowed him to see that I had a support system that I didn't have with him outside the home. So it gave us a better understanding.
Wouldn't trade it for anything. It's the most wonderful experience that I could have had.
I praise God for Kairos. I praise God for what Kairos has done in my life. I'm now working toward being the leader of a Kairos weekend, April the 23rd through 25th, 2010. And I would just recommend Kairos to any woman that has had their life impacted by incarceration any kind of way.
The real blessing in this is to walk hand in hand with women who are also serving, who also love God or are learning to love God, to walk hand in hand with them through a very short weekend that can have very profound consequences.
Truthfully, this has been the greatest gift that I have ever received. I mean, absolutely the most special gift. I cannot stress to anyone enough how much this ministry means to me.
The love is not just located to one little small area. It's international. And to me, that is, it's just astonishing to realize how far that the love of the Lord can reach through this ministry.
Thank you for listening to the stories of Kairos Outside. There are many ways you can be involved in this very important ministry.